House or the Senate, I have greater fears today about something happening in the homeland than at any point after 9/11.
Anytime after 9/11.
Yes.
Was a headline.
U.S. intelligence services. Remember, James Clapper, in testimony that he gave last year, said that in his 50 years in the intelligence world, he's never seen a globe beset with more crises than we're facing right now. Dianne Feinstein, the former chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said much the same thing, said terror is up worldwide in response to questions that she got in an interview. So basically, in Washington, D.C., everybody from these different parties at each other's throat over everything, except for one thing, and that's that the threats that we face now are unlike the threats that we have faced in any time in recent memory. Everybody agrees to that, except for one person, and it's the President of the United States.
James Comey is the FBI director. This week he was in Mississippi, and what he said, Steve, is that they see threats from ISIS in every state in America but Alaska. This is also what he said. Watch.
The challenge we face in law enforcement is that they may be getting exposed to that poison and that training in their basement. And so they're not going to a physical space where they're meeting terrorists or communicating overseas in a way that we can intercept. They're sitting there consuming, and they may emerge from their basement to kill people of any sort, which is the call of ISIL. Just kill somebody.
Stunning. And when, if true, 49 different states have some sort of lead. We don't know how extensive it is. But clearly what he is talking about is the challenge in tracking them down and finding them when you can operate on your own, Steve.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, scary, and you know, the intelligence professionals have been warning for some time that this is going to be the new face of jihadist terror, these homegrown terrorists, these lone wolf terrorists. But it's important to remember that the rest of the threat as we had understood it before, remains, and I would argue has even grown. We've seen ISIS presence now in 8, maybe 10 countries across the region. We've seen Al-Qaeda growing and grabbing territory on its own in spite of the fact that it has this rivalry with ISIS. We've seen other jihadist groups grow and proliferate throughout the region, throughout the world. So it's very clear that the threat is growing, and yet you have a president of the United States who insists on saying that America is safer and that the threat is diminishing. The difference between the intelligence professionals on the one hand and reality, I would argue, and the words that are coming out of the president's mouth in order to downplay these threats are quite extraordinary.
We'll get to Susan Rice in a moment. Jamie's got that next with Kevin Corke. But you're right about where ISIS continues to pop up. We've mentioned Libya, but now they're talking about Egypt and Algeria, so it's not just in the areas of Iraq and Syria as well. So we'll get more on that later. Steve, thank you very much.